Okay, let's get started here. My name is Charlie Coiner, and I'm the owner of FirstDown PlayBook. I'm also a 30-year coach, 9 in the NFL, the rest in major college football. And I'm going to try to take you through the 6-2 defense tonight. And most of you were on here, or some of you, I should say, were on here earlier. And the idea is just to really break it down into the basic fundamental parts of it. No question should leave here tonight that you have unanswered. I mean, at least you should ask it. I hope I have the answer. Nobody has all the answers, but please don't be shy about that. Now, we have a lot of coaches on here tonight, a lot of youth coaches. So I don't want to stop in the middle and answer questions. We will do that at the end. I've got co-founder and co-owner of FirstDown PlayBook, Kendall Atcho, is on here. She will be manning the chat section. That's where you want to put your questions in. You can put them in as I'm going through it, and that way she can just start keeping track of them, and we'll get them answered at the end, if you will. So without further ado, we'll get started here. As you can see, we've got a schedule for the next 8 weeks after tonight. So you can keep track of that, spread the word to your friends or something like that if you want them to get in on this. All right, let's go over here. Start talking about the 6-2 defense. Okay. Before we get into the 6-2 defense as a specific defense, I just want to take a moment, and I'm into our youth defensive terms section in FirstDown PlayBook. And as you can see, and I'm not going to get too in-depth with this, but I just want to point out that what we do is we go through and we identify some very basic things that you have to do to play defense. And one of the things that we identify over here in the first slide, and I'm not even going to open the slides up, because some of it will come up as we get into the other slides. But you've always got to make sure that your players understand that there's a quarterback and 5 eligibles. That's extremely important. I don't care if you're playing, coaching in the NFL, playing in the NFL, or youth football. And it's important for them to understand how to identify who those eligibles are, because that's going to have everything to do with your coverage. So we've got a deal there for that. And then, defensive identification. What are you going to call your people? And then we've got a 4-4 drawn up there. I'll show you more of that as we get into the 6-2. Now, this is something important right here, gap responsibility. You're going to hear me talk about an A gap. The A gap is between the center and the guard. The B gap is between the guard and the tackle. The C gap is between the tackle and tight end, and the D gap is outside of the tight end. All right? This is important just to communicate. So as you hear me talk about A, B, C, or D gap, that's what I'm talking about. Now, you're also going to hear me talk about techniques, okay? Techniques, essentially the way we do them with FirstDown PlayBook, and it's pretty consistent anywhere you go. We call it a shade on the center, or a 1 technique. A nose head up on the center is a 0 technique. On a guard, it's a 2. If the defensive player is head up, a 2-eye, like the inside eye. If they're on the inside shade, a 3 outside shade, 4-eye inside shade on the tackle, 4 head up, a 5 outside. The tight end's a little different. It goes back to the history of football. You might run into people that have changed this. I wouldn't blame them. But a 7 technique is inside out of the tight end, 6 technique head up, and a 9 technique outside. And we explain all that there. I've got a defensive run fit and coverage right here, but we're actually going to break that down into 6-2. But just the big thing is understand, what a 3 technique and a 5 technique and the gap responsibilities are as we get going here. Now, whoops. Okay, so I'm going to do something here. I'm going to blow this screen up, okay? So I don't have to open up every one of these. Because I want to go through and I want to talk to you about, I just want to talk to you about a 6-2 defenses, the pluses and the minuses. But what I really want to do is, as a defensive coach, once again, I don't care if you're coaching in Foxborough on Sunday or if you're coaching in Fishersville on Saturday morning, you better be able to adjust your defense to whatever the offense is going to give you. Because there's, there are some rules that y'all play with and play against that might be different. But for the most part, you've always got to be able to cover your eligibles, okay? Now, a 6-2 defense, what you're saying is that you're going to commit. This is different than a 4-4. If you want to run a 4-4, all right, come back in a couple weeks, because we're going to cover a 4-4 defense. When we call it a 6-2 defense, what we're saying is we're going to commit 6 people to the run. They're not going to be covering anybody. So our 6 people committed to the run are the Will, the left end, the left tackle, the right end, and the Sam. Now, you could very easily in a 6-2 call the tackles guards, call the ends tackles, and call the outside backers ends, whatever you want to call them. But these 6 players inside right here have no coverage responsibility. They're going to play the run all the way. So if you do the math and you know that you've got 5 eligibles, all right, and you're committing 6 people to the run, all 5 other people are going to have to be responsible for the pass. And we're going to play man coverage in the way we're going to teach the 6-2 right here. Now, one thing about teaching your coverage, you can draw up and cover everybody down pretty easily, but you've got to have rules for your coverage, coaches. Don't give your players one rule for a double wing formation and then a different rule for wishbone formation and a new rule for twins formation. You can't do it. You got to give your players simple rules to where they can get lined up. Now, I'm not going to focus right now on the inside people. We're going to come back to them later. But as our rules go with coverage for the 6-2, knowing that we don't have the 6 people in the middle to cover, the corners are going to cover number 1, the first eligible outside in a balanced formation. So this corner's got number 1, this corner's got number 1. Our linebackers are going to cover number 2, okay? The tight end in this case happens to be number 2. The tight end in this case happens to be number 2 over here. 1, 2. The free safety, you got to use him in coverage because you don't have anybody else. It's going to be responsible for number 3. Now, for the most part, you're going to see as I scroll down here with these formations, that's going to hold true. You need to do this. If you don't do this, you're going to have people running uncovered. All right, so here we go, 6-2. Number 1, the inside backer's got number 2, same thing. Now, there's 2 backs in the backfield. So this backer over here will take the first back out. If a back releases that way, the free safety needs to know that he's got him out. Now, you could move the free safety over here and let them take the tight end, all right? And you could let the 2 backers take the backs. But I'm telling you right now, when you get to a formation where they start emptying that backfield, you're going to get yourself in trouble because your linebackers are going to vacate and you're going to end up having 1 linebacker. You want to try to keep your linebackers intact if you can, all right? And it just holds true of your rules. So once again, here's a power eye. Corner's got 1, corner's got 1, all right? The near back, this backer's got the near back, and once again, the free safety and the backer are going to trade out this. Now, I'm going to keep going down. You can see we've got each one of them drawn up here. I'm going to get down here to, all right, when you have 2 receivers on the same side and a tight end on the backside, that's when, unless you want to take a linebacker, because remember, the will backer can't bump out. You're playing a 6-2, not a 4-4. Now, this backer right here would have to bump out. Probably not a good idea. Still got 2 backs in the backfield. Run game's coming right up the A-gap at you. Take your corner, move them over, all right? Just make a corner over call, and now what you've got is now your backer knows that the tight end would normally be number 2. You've got the tight end, and the backer and the free safety have got the 2 backs. And if you go into FirstDown Playbook, you're going to see, you know, there are diagrams for all of these formations versus a 6-2, but what you're also seeing is you're seeing rules, and I'll show you that here in a second. In your coach's notes, you've got rules. So this is just corners over, and now you've got a 3-by-1 formation, okay? Once again, these 6 guys up front aren't playing any coverage. So if I'm the backer, now I've got to take the first guy in the box, all right? And that'll be the tight end. And now right now, if I'm the backer over here, I've got the tight end because he's the widest. And now the free safety takes the one in the middle. Once again, there's rules for each one of these. Now, I'm just scrolling down so you can see that we've taken the time to actually do this for all the different formations. Because, once again, if you can't adjust on defense, you got a big-time problem. You can't play defense unless you can adjust to the formations you get. Now, if you get one-back formations, and I know that's showing up more and more in youth football now, all right, then, yeah, what you need to do is your backers, all right, they're going to go and cover down number 2. You only have 1 back in the backfield. But what I would do as an adjustment is 2 things. I would take my free safety, move them up to really probably linebacker depth, let him be the linebacker. Now, you could make an adjustment. If your free safety is a little kid and you don't want to do that and you're playing a one-back team, you could easily make the free safety, make a one-back check, let the free safety come over here and cover number 2 and keep one of your backers in the box. But you look at what else that we've done here. The backers are outside, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to line our tackles up inside. Might even put them in the gap right there. Your ends are going to stunt in the gap. So what are you doing? You're trying to make sure you force all the run game outside to an unblocked Sam, an unblocked Will, and your linebackers, your inside linebackers. What you want to do is you don't want them to hit you right up in the A gap, all right? So everything is going to flush to the outside. So it's just a common sense adjustment if you want to play a 6-2 because you can't use the Will and the Sam in coverage, all right? Now here's a wing T formation, all right? And I know you're probably getting a lot of those. It's just the same rules. Your rules shouldn't change. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now let's go down here, all right? Unbalanced, okay? All we do with unbalanced is make an adjustment with our front, and everybody else still plays their rules. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. There's 3 running backs back here, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to take the snap, all right? And this is a bad drawing in case you haven't noticed. We got one too many players in there. That guy shouldn't be in there. All right, now, here is empty. All right, when you get an empty formation, now you've got to really make some adjustments. It's really the same adjustments you did with one back. Your backers are walked out, so I want to pinch everything inside. Make the ball, if this quarterback can run the ball, make him run it outside. Make him get outside where you've got some help. You got a Will backer unblocked out here. You got a Sam backer unblocked out here. If you have to, go ahead and put your end in the B gap. Put your tackle in the A gap. Make sure that the ball doesn't get run right up the gap because you've got issues back here. Because once again, you got to play man coverage. Now, once again, everything about defense and youth football is about this quarterback. How good are they? Can they take the game over with their arm? And that's why, and I'm going to just go down here. You can see we've got unbalanced checks. But if I go down here to where it's an empty formation or a one-back formation, we call it a spread beater. All right, you can still play a 6-2, pressure the quarterback, and really play half the distance between the receiver and the running back with your backer, half the distance between your corner or your 2 receivers with your corner. In other words, you don't have to cover everybody down here unless that quarterback can make you pay the price. Now, because what you're going to run into in youth football, you're going to run into somebody who wants to spread you out across the field. You take all your guys out there, all your players out there and cover them down, and then they snap the ball and the quarterback runs right up the middle. You don't have to do that. Unless that quarterback can throw the ball all the way out here to the number 1 receiver, you don't have to – don't put one person on them. Put the corner in between the 2 of them. If that ball gets thrown out here, tell that corner to break up on the outside receiver. If that ball gets thrown to the slot, break up to the slot. Backers inside out, corners outside in. Don't let them spread you out across the field just to run the football. Okay, now, so that's a very quick, idea just about your coverages and how you have to adjust with your formations. Now, I want to go, let me get the screen back down or this is not going to work very well. All right, as you can see, there are a lot of different versions of 6-2, all right, and I'm not going to go into all of them here. I'm going to go into one. But 6-2 just means 6 down, all right, and 2 backers. What you do with your front should probably have to do with what formation they're playing and also what they're trying to do to you. Now, once again, I'm not going to open up one of these, but you can see we've got a 6-2 tight, and that's the one I'm going to show you. We got a 6-2 slant where you slant to the strength of the formation, a 6-2 pinch where you're pinching inside, which is kind of what we were doing to those one-back and empty formations. A 6-2 Bravo, where you're bringing the 2 inside backers in the B gap. A 6-2 Alpha, where you're bringing them in the A gap. A 6-2 Free Dog, where you're bringing the free safety in one of the 2 A gaps, depending on which way the center blocks. And a 6-2 Saw X, where you're bringing your Will, you're twisting your Will in your end and your Sam in your end. Now, once again, you may have different rules in your league that allow that or don't allow that. I'm just telling you that these are all drawn up and they're fitted up against all these different formations, just like the base was. Now, I want to open up a 6-2 tight here real quick. I just want to show you All right. A 6-2 tight, and I'm just going to open up one of these, is an example of how you would adjust versus a team that was going to run inside on you. You can see it's still a 6-2, but what we've done is we've taken the tackle and put them in a 2-eye, the end, and we put them in a 4-eye. Now, you could actually put them in the gap. Now, some of you may not be able to play. They make you play head up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If they make you play head up in your league, what you want to do is line head up and stunt into the A gap, stunt into the B gap. But this is an example of a 6-2 defense, but you're playing it very differently because what you're doing is you're playing it, once again, to make everything bounce. You're playing it 6-2, a 6-2 tight. Everybody's got tight alignments. Now, didn't affect your coverage one single bit. Once again, everything you're doing with your front does not affect your coverage because you're not using any, you're playing cover 0. All right, let's go to a 6-2 here as a base. Now, I'm in the edit mode of First Down Playbook here. Just want to show you. So let's say you're playing a jumbo or a wing team here. All right, so obviously you look at this formation, where are they heavy? They're heavy over here. They've got a wing. They got 2 backs. Heck, the fullback can line up right over here. Now, they're really heavy over here, right? That's not unbalanced. But the point is that, you know, when you got a lot of offense over here, you can still play a 6-2, but now you want to coach your defense to maybe adjust to that wing. So what you would do was play a 3 technique out here with your tackle, all right, outside eye of the guard. Play an outside eye on your tackle, or the tackle if you're in. Play your Sam either outside eye of the tight end, or even put them in a crease technique, where what they're doing on the snap of the ball, they want to run and try to get inside the wing back right there and crease that tight end and wing. All right. Now, and you've got even your backers might adjust over here to the wing side. On the back side, you don't have a tight end over here. You don't have a wing. You don't really even have the backs to the side. So tighten it down if you want to. Now tell your tackle, if you get this, tighten down to a shade. Tighten down to a 3 technique. Tighten down to a 5 technique. What are you playing? You're still playing a 6-2 defense, but you could call it a 6-2 heavy. And now what you're doing is you're taking away where they got the offense, all right? Now, if they start coming out, and I don't know if you have motion in your league or not, if they start motioning over, trading over, you better be ready for that. You better be ready for everybody just to adjust back out. But if they're just coming up and they're pounding you over here, all right, to the wing side, then you need to be aware of that. All right, now, a couple different, I've got 2 different runs here that I want to talk to you about, you know, just the fits. Now, I'm going to show you at the end here kind of what I've done. What I've done is I went into the First Down Playbook offensive section. And when you're in First Down Playbook and you're in the edit mode, like I am right now, you can flip the plays horizontally and look at them left and right. You can also flip them vertically. So what I did is I went into First Down Playbook and I took an offensive play, all right, and I changed it up a little bit. I went over here and coached my deep, but I flipped it. And so now I've got a play, and this is what you call fitting up a defense. Let me shrink the screen here just a little bit. All right, so if I'm fitting up this defense, now it gets into that gap control I was talking about, A, B, C. You want to have, particularly in youth football, you want to have somebody in charge of each gap. Now, you see where I've got all the players playing head up on the inside right now. And the only reason I've got that drawn like that is I know that there are some leagues that require it. Now, I would never, even if I had to play my players head up, I would never play them without a gap responsibility. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play this gap responsibility like on the snap of the ball, this tackle is going to have B gap responsibility. So I'm going to shade it, and I'm going to have this end be C gap responsibility. So I'm going to shade it. Even though they're lined up head up on snap, this tackle is going to play here, and this end is going to play here. Okay, so now let's look at what's going on here. We've got a double wing formation. You've got the quarterback reversing out, pitching it, all right, to the back who's coming over. You've got the fullback going to lead. You've got a down block by the wing over here. You've got a lot of offense coming at you over here on the right side. All right, now, the first thing you'll see is that I've got the people numbered 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We know by coverage that corner's got 1, that corner's got 1, that backer's got 2, that backer's got 2, this free safety's got 3. So their man coverage responsibility will take them to some degree to where the run should go. So let's just look at this play when it's snapped. Let's talk about the inside first. Who's got the B gap here? All right, the tackle's got the B gap. He's got to keep his right arm free. He's got to keep his right leg free unless he gets blocked down on. If he gets blocked down on, then he's just got to hold ground and let somebody else, the linebacker or the end, take it. Right now, the end is in the C gap. Okay, he's playing the C gap. This backer right here, all right, is either going to play the D gap or crease technique. And he'll try to get up and maybe penetrate and blow that play up before it ever gets going. But he's going to be inside of here, and that wing will be trying to block down on him. All right, so now let's look at what, and this question came up a lot last year in our youth football chalk talk. Everybody, you know, you put your smallest player out here, and you know, you get a lot of sweeps run at you, and you go, okay, what am I going to do? Well, you got to be careful about that in youth football. This might not be the place for your smallest player. All right, this might, you know, if you're getting a lot of sweeps, you might want to try to find a better place. And I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of small players. You'll think I'm crazy. A lot of small players that can play in here better than they can play out here, because on the snap of the ball, they're nice and low and they penetrate and they go make a play, you know, underneath somebody. Whereas out here, now they've got a lot of space to cover and they got people running downhill on them. But I'm here to tell you right now also that when that ball is snapped, if they're covering number 1 and number 1 blocks and they're looking through the backfield and they can see the ball coming, they're better off being here than they are here. So when they see that their assignment block and they know it's a run, they can't do it before they know it's a run, they need to trigger and they need to get up here and they need to make that ball come back inside. Make it come back inside here or here, not here. Genie's out of the bottle then, it's too late. All right, so now I'm the play side linebacker. So I know that my tackle's got B gap, my end's got C gap, my backer's in the crease. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, depending on the flow, pretty fast flow right here, ball tossed, people running, I've got to get outside. Now I've got to whip the block of that 3 technique, hopefully just overrun it. I want to get out here and I want to try to fit inside of the corners contained and outside of the crease. And so what we've got is we got the crease player, we got the backers, you know, fast flow, corner containing. Now, back over here, my backside backer, I can't, you know, the ball is tossed, so you can be a little faster, but he wants to be more of a scrape mode, because even in youth football, we've all seen that ball start over here, cut way back, and there's nobody in here. So he wants to stay behind the ball. And then at the last second, yeah, just like any other player, he wants to pull the trigger, and he wants to be up on that ball inside out. Now, your backside players, once again, all right, what responsibility are you giving them? You're probably going to give them the same responsibility you did front tackle, as the balance formation. So this tackle, all right, he will be a 3 technique player. End will be a 5 technique player. This backer will be a crease player. All right, so what happens is when the ball goes away, though, what they need to do is at some point, if they penetrate or if they don't, they need to start a pursuit angle. All right, another pursuit angle. They need to start chasing the ball down here where they can save the touchdown. Your backer, right, when that one back goes away, he can come up, he can be a trail player, but at the end of the day, he or she has got to be responsible for reverse. If there's a reverse coming back to the side, they've got to be able to stop it, turn it back inside to the defense. And now your corner, once one goes away, the corner can start folding away, all right, because there's nobody to cover. And once again, they're going to be pursuit, last chance to stop a touchdown. Your free safety, who's cover number 3, on the way to cover number 3, all right, he sees number 3 block. If he blocks that backer, he's extra. He's alley to the football. Now, coaches, that's the way you have to teach defense. You need to teach defense about assignments and techniques and gap control. And if you'll do that more often than not, all these run fit things will make sense. Let's go take a look at an option play. All right, here's a a different formation. Now you're in a one-back set. We call it shoot, spread, whatever you want to call it. And so they're running, you know, I'll call it a triple option. Most youth teams don't, you know, they make it look like a triple option, but it's really just a double option. But you got the quarterback coming out front side. He's got the option of handing it to the 3-back, keeping it around the edge himself, or pitching it to the 2 who came in motion right here. So once again, now I've got the front. This time I've got us in a tight front. It could be the same front I had before, but now your tackle obviously has got the A gap. He's got to play the dive and the A gap. All right, your end is playing a tight technique. He's got to play the B gap. He's got the dive. Now you've got your backer in a crease inside right here. If that wing back blocks outside, tries to reach him, he has no choice but to be a dive the quarterback player. He'll be inside. All right, now if he plays here and that wing back would have blocked down, now he can be a quarterback player. He can be outside. But right now he's got to be a dive player in case that dive hits, but then he can chase the quarterback or actually penetrate and tackle the quarterback as well. So let's look at what's happening behind him. Now, I'm the front side backer. All right, I see what's happening. I am going to check. I'm going to check my dive. All right, but then I am going to get pretty quickly inside out to the quarterback and then to pitch. So I'm going to go inside out, check the dive really quickly, but I should be in good shape at the dive. I've got a tackle. I got an in. All right, the moment I see that ball get pulled, I've got to get inside out to this quarterback. All right, and if the quarterback pitches it, I just continue inside out to the pitch. All right, now, free safety. What did your guy do? Okay, now this is the deal right here where your free safety, as the ball comes down, he may actually start downhill a little bit first to make sure, all right, because he's got the fullback man coverage. If that fullback were to spit through there, he'd have him. But the moment he understands that it's not a pass, all right, he now becomes an alley player to the pitch, all the way to the pitch. He can be quarterback to pitch, if you want to call it that, but he better get out there to the pitch. He'll be inside out to the pitch. Your corner will be outside in to the pitch. Once again, just going to have to, you know, be aggressive. Make sure that you don't let stuff outside of you, even no matter how small you are, get it back to your free safety. Then everybody on the backside is still a fold player. So these are the type of principles. And once again, you know, I'll go back and show you here in a second. I'm going to show you right now, as a matter of fact, just how you get to that. Let's go back to FirstDown Playbook. And I'm going to go back to the offensive section of it. I know we got a lot of things loaded up here. So if I went, let's say that, you know, I've got all my youth defenses in here. This is where we'll be spending the next couple weeks. But if I go to youth offense, let's say I'm playing a split back team that week. All right, so if I go in and I'm playing a split back team, and I'm talking about now if I'm coaching defense, okay, not offense. So if I'm coaching against a split back team, what I'm going to do, if I've got, let's say they're going to run we did a dive option. Let's pick something different. Let's just pick a load play right here. So I'm going to open that load play up. Let's say I'm playing, you know, I've got my 6-2 up here, right? So if I've got my coaching, their assignments are in here now. But if I come in here, all right, and I go to edit, when I choose edit in FirstDown Playbook, what I would do with my defensive guys is I would come in and I would flip it. And now I can, you know, I would come in and make adjustments. I would make adjustments to what I want to call it and everything. But now you can actually coach plays. But your plays need to come off of fundamentals, all right? Fundamentals of gap responsibility and control. Now, I'm going to real quickly, and then we'll take some questions here. And let me go back to the defensive section here real quick. I want to get to one where I can edit it. Here's one. Okay, I'm going to touch on technique here real quick. And I understand, but you know that we're talking about scheme for the most part here, but there are some fundamental techniques I just want to point out. A 3 technique, in other words, you're inside your tackles and your ends, same deal. All right, if you're going to play them in a 3-point stance, you want their shaded hand down. You want them in a balanced stance. You want the off arm to be free. And the reason you do it that way is you want to coach them to keep their outside shoulder, their outside leg, their outside arm free. So you let them put their inside hand down in the three-point stance, okay? The first step should be with their inside foot here, their shaded foot. You should step in, engage with the left arm right here, and you want to keep your outside arm free, okay? You want to play balanced, and you want to play square to the line of scrimmage if you're in here. Now, if you're playing the Will or the Sam, a couple different ways, really 3 different ways you can play it. If you're playing them to be square, and I wouldn't here because you got a wing outside, but if you're playing this guy to play square like they are, then you want their outside leg back because you don't want them to ever get that outside leg reached. On the snap of the ball, all right, what they will do is they will engage that tackle and keep their outside arm free. Same thing, pretty much the same thing they're doing here, playing square. Now, if you want to play them wide, you can tilt them inside, and they can actually have their inside leg up. But if you're going to put their inside leg up, turn them at 45 degrees and make sure that they understand they still can't get reached. All right? And then the other technique is the one I talked to you about before with your sandbacker. On the snap of the ball, just let them penetrate. Key the ball. On the ball snapped, get in the crease. Get in the crease right there and make everything bounce outside. Now, your linebackers, you want them to be anywhere from, and before I go to linebackers, if you're going to move your people up front, don't get them up there so close to where they can't stunt across the gap. If you're going to stunt your lineman, whichever lineman you're going to stunt, back them up a little bit. Give them a chance to get across the lineman's face. Because if you get them up there and you tell them to get as close as they can to the line of scrimmage, you're never going to get to the far gap, and you'll have issues. Now, your linebackers, you want to put normally at about 5 yards depth. Get them in a balanced stance. You want them to key, all right, through to the backfield. You can have keys if the guard pulls. You know, if you want to teach that, if you're at a level where they can do that. If not, you want them just to key through their coverage and man coverage and just key the backfield. Ball toss that way, scrape, ball toss this way. All right, I've got a feel. Your corners, you just want to typically teach inside out man technique if the receiver is extended about 5 to 7 yards off, but that's all dependent on how good that receiver is, how good your corner is, and can your quarterback make your corner pay if he lines up too close. And your free safety and youth football guys or gang, sorry for our female coaches out there, it's just really a bona fide deep linebacker. Let's face it, you're playing zero coverage right here, so it's really not like they're the last line of defense unless it's a run. Really, they're going to be playing downhill. So they may not get in a squared up stance. You might want to put them in a staggered stance where they could backpedal a little bit. But for the most part, they're just a linebacker at like 8 to 10 yards. So those are just some basic techniques. We're thinking about creating a technique section in FirstDown Playbook here, and we're back and forth on that a little bit right now. But we appreciate any of your input on that as well. Okay, so that's let me see what I did here. It looks like probably about 30 to 35 minutes. And so I want to take the next however long you want to take, and I want to answer your questions and try to do it here with our screen. Kendall, do we have any to start with?
We do. We have one from Aaron, and he asked, what kind of personnel do you think best fits a 6-2 defense?
Aaron, I think with a 6-2 defense, now I'm going with a 6-2 defense at youth level, and I'll say this, the younger the players, the more I would lean toward a 6-2 defense, meaning that it's very simple. You better be stopping the run first. You don't have a big pass threat. I've had youth coaches tell me that, my 9-year-old can do this and do that. I would make his 9-year-old or her 9-year-old beat me with this receiver out here before I would ever change my defense. But I think it's if I'm playing a 6-2 and I've got young kids, I'm playing with bigger kids in here. So if I've got bigger, stronger, oversized kids, I would play them in here, and I would play a 6-2. Linebackers are those tweeners. They can run a little bit, they can hit a little bit, and then your corners really are the people that in youth football. Once again, you got to be careful now. Maybe they can cover, but they're also going to have to come up and play contain. And then once again, I think your free safety is just a bona fide linebacker at 10 yards deep. So I think if you've got bigger, thicker, bigger players, I think a 6-2 probably fits you better than maybe a 4-4 or something like that. Kendall?
Cassandra asked, for the smaller kid, would you think they would be good as a backer too?
Good. What's the last part again?
For the smaller kid, would you think they would be good as a backer too?
Well, Cassandra, I think that's a good point. I'm not sure in youth football, once again, we all put our smaller kids here and here. I think that there are intuitive smaller players that might be just as good in here, because let's face it, who's more covered? I'm going to take this line out right here. I just want you to think about this for a second. All right. Who's more protected if they run a sweep? This kid out here or this kid in here? This player in here is, because they've got linemen that are protecting them, and you can play it that way even. You can play it to where this tackle's job is to keep that guard off of the backer. This end's job is to keep that tackle off the backer. You can play where that Sam backer could come down, get his hands on tight end. His job is not let that tight end off. And this linebacker, you just let him play. So I think you bring up a great point. Once again, I'm not a big person right now. When I played both ways when I was a kid, I can still remember being a small player playing in here even. I think that, you don't want to, you got to be careful to some degree, but I think a smaller player can play in here if you have them doing the right thing. So the smaller players don't necessarily have to be a corner. Kendall?
Chris wants to know, what drills do you recommend to teach responsibilities? Drills that teach the kids but keep them engaged.
That's a great question. And the key question that you just said there, Coach, is keep them engaged. I think that one of the best things you can do, all right, now depending on how many players you have, but if you've got enough where you're breaking it up offense, defense, it's always good if you've got somewhere where you can get some barrels and put the barrels up enough to where you've got an A gap, a B gap, a C gap, and a D gap. In other words, get 3 barrels, a middle barrel, and 3 barrels over here. And maybe it's cones, and maybe it's a strip or whatever. But to me, if you can just come up and, have the coach toss the ball out of here and talk about, have them, jog to their assignments. What gap do you have? I'm B gap. I'm C gap. I think you can do all that. And the thing about it is you're not running them into each other all the time. So I believe that's one of the things you can do. I also believe that, I'm a big believer coaching whole part whole. Let them see the big picture, but then break it down. In other words, take a drill and I understand you may not have enough coaches to do that, but if you can take a drill and you can ever break it down to where you got the corner, okay, you kind of break it down like this, right, in this formation. And what you're doing is you're taking your inside people and you're working on what happens inside. You take your edge people and you work on crease, contained. All right, what do I do? If I'm this corner out here in my wing, I got a man covered, he blocks, I got to explode up the field because I'm going to turn everything back in. I'm going to be aggressive. So I guess to answer your question, I think as far as responsibilities, what you need to do is sometimes if you got the whole big picture out there for them, you can't see the forest for the trees or whatever. I think you got to break it down and let them just see their responsibility and let them know if you just do this part of it, the rest of the defense will fit together. Kendall?
When do you feel is best to use the 6-2 tight?
One more time, please.
When do you feel is best to use the 6-2 tight?
Oh, the tight. I got it. Yeah, let me go back to it right here. When you're getting hammered up the middle, I brought up the 6-2 tight against this formation for a reason. Look at this formation right here. Where do you think they're going to attack you? They've got the ability to, block. They've got blockers inside. They've got the ability to run a double. I don't have an edit mode here, but they've got the ability to run a double ISO at you. And with your quarterback and run it, they got the ability to run a triple ISO at you. So if they've got the ability to hit you inside, I think the best thing you can do is take away the inside first. Take these guys, shoot them in the gap if you have to. No different in youth football than it is anywhere else. make the ball go east-west if you can. If they're running the ball downhill on you, it's not going to be a good day for you. So the 6-2 tight is to stop inside runs. Kendall?
If the play goes away, does the far side always stay home?
Well, the far side, meaning you need to have one player. So if the play goes away, all right, I need one player, and I call it a trail technique, all right, where they're just going to trail down the line of scrimmage, all right, because if the ball cuts back, they might be there for a play. But they're trailing also because, and I'm going to widen this, because if the play comes here and everything goes this way, and all of a sudden the ball gets pitched to the tailback, and now this is a receiver, and that ball comes back on a reverse, that's their responsibility. They've got to stop the reverse. So if the ball comes this way, same deal. You got to have one player be a trail reverse guy. Now the rest of them are really just play your technique, and when you see it, you're just folding. It does no good to run upfield and run behind the ball. That won't do anybody any good. So the moment you know the ball's away, if I'm inside, I just want to fold to the ball. Even out here, I want to fold pursuit angles, right? That's the way that you get somebody there to make that game-saving tackle if it breaks out the front side. Kendall?
For a team that defends the run 99% of the time, mainly sweeps, what would you say the rules should be for the backers and the defensive backs?
I'm not sure I understand that question, whether we're talking about pass coverage or if we're talking about the run game. Let me try to get back to one of these.
Would you like me to read it again?
Yeah, read it one more time, if you will, please.
For a team that defends the run 99% of the time, mainly sweeps, what would you say the rule should be for the backers and the defensive backs?
Well, I think they should be exactly what we covered earlier. I think that they should be that if and here's an option, it's not a sweep, but I think that if you'll play your man coverage rules, okay, and if you'll just take your backers, and if the ball is going to, if it's a sweep out here and you're running 6-2, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to probably widen this backer right here and play them in a crease. Now, if you're having a lot of trouble with sweeps on a 6-2, there's nothing wrong with making an adjustment like I talked about earlier either. You can take that linebacker right there and say, all right, I am not letting them get outside on me this time. And I'm gonna take this end right here, and I'm gonna play him in a shade. All right. I'm gonna take my tackle, and I'm gonna play them in a shade. And then I'm gonna play a 2-eye on the backside and a 4-eye on the backside. Now, that's assuming that they're running over, you know which side they're normally running to, but I am going to try to get a loaded front to help myself out. Now, my front side backer, he still really can do nothing but attack the sweep inside out, be inside out. And now, if I'm getting, if my man out here is unable to hold up with contain, then I'm going to make a change. I'm going to take my free safety, move him over there. I'm going to tell my corner, you go back and play free safety. All right, and I'm going to get a more physical kid out here, and I'm going to have him come upfield and contain. But I think that your rules should hold up for the most part. If you just play the same rules that we talked about earlier, you should be in great shape against the sweep. Kendall?
This one's from Coach DeMarcus. I coach 40-plus 5 to 7-year-olds. What would be the best way to split that number up and teach the 6-2 to more than one group?
Good question. I mean, so 40 players, and I'm guessing you're teaching them all defense. Yeah, Coach, what I would do to start with, because here's what I know about youth football, and this is coaching flag football, and the age that you got, if you've got them standing around for more than 30 seconds, you lost them. They may be over on the next field playing baseball. So what I would do, Coach, if I had 40 kids, I would probably try to find some system to where either I was going to break them up into 2 or 3 groups if you had enough coaches, and have them all like 30, you have 33 of them, group A, group B, group C, and they're all running a drill at the same time where they're either going to fit up on a hose, fit up on cones, fit up on barrels if you're lucky enough to have that much. But yeah, you got to keep them engaged, because if you've got them standing in line, that's not going to be a good thing. And so, yeah, I mean, even to the point to where it's hard to have them out there and run group 1, then group 2, then group 3, because I'm telling you, when group 1 is running, group 2 and 3 their minds are wandering somewhere else. So I would totally break them up and try to find something stationary. And what you could do with the other 7 kids, maybe, is take them, make them a quarterback, make them and make another one a running back, and then have a coach over there of each group. But I would certainly all have them doing something almost always. And I know that that's hard to me. We do this preseason. I know Kendall's will yell at me for answering this question too long, but I think it's the best question I've had tonight, because I think that what you get into when you coach youth football is, if you're not organized, you've got people standing around, you'll never get them back. You'll never get their attention back once you lose them. So you should be definitely organized and have a deal to where you got them all doing something at the same time. Even if you have a younger coach that maybe doesn't know as much, and you're a rover coach, and you go from group A to group B to group C. That's the way I would coach it. Kendall?
What line stunts do you think work best in a 6-2?
Well, I think that, let me go back. I think that the line stunt should probably have to do, and you can see what we've got here. I'll go to slant right here, 6-2 slant. I think it should be done for a reason. And maybe the reason is that you're playing with smaller defensive linemen, and you want to line up, and they're making you line up head up, and you want to get going to a certain direction because they're hurting you there. So I'll go right here to the power I. And you can see where, I've got them in a tight, and what I would, in the coaching points, if you go over here with our coaching notes, and we talk about all that over here, all right, but, I would cheat them a little bit to head up late. It's a matter of stepping laterally with my right foot, ripping my left hip and my left elbow through. I think that it should be for a reason, that if you're going to line up, play a 6-2, and once again, I guess it's not a tight defense because I got a 5 technique out here, and you tell them, like, anytime you get that near back over here, let's call a rip. Let's make the linebacker make a rip call. Rip, rip, rip. Let's everybody rip over here to where their extra back is. Well, that's where they're hurting us. They're not hurting us away from him. So if he came out and he lined up, let me go to edit mode here. If he lined up on the left side, then I would just Liz, right? Linebacker make a Liz call. Now let's go ahead and rip over here. So I think there needs to be a reason to do it. Yeah, I think if you've got smaller players, that might be a reason to do it right there, to keep them moving, because you don't want to let a smaller kid in there be stationary against a kid that outweighs him by 20 or 30 pounds. Kendall?
Tony asked, in your opinion, what is the biggest flaw of the 6-2 for youth, and how would you address it?
Well, the hardest part about the 6-2, if you were to run, let's say that you ran into a team and they were, let's say that they had the ability to spread you out a little bit. When they start spreading you out, you would really think about it, Tommy. You would rather be in a 4-4. All right, it's very similar, right? If you play and we'll cover a 4-4 in a couple weeks, but if you play a 4-4, and I'm adjusting a defense we already have up here, but if you play a 4-4, now you've got more ability to adjust to different formations and maybe even motion, right, that you could get. Because now what you've said is, I'm going to take 4 backers and my corners and my free safety and then be able to include them in coverage adjustments and things. So I think that the 6-2, you need to be careful about running the 6-2 if you get into 10, 11-year-olds and all of a sudden this kid right here has the ability to heave it up, and they've got one guy out here, I'll use this because he got a receiver on his deal, but you got, a kid that's got the ability to go down the sideline and he can throw it up, and you're forced to play man coverage every time because you're in a 6-2, you're better off to be in a 4-4 because now you've got a free safety that can help that corner over the top. All right. Very similar. And you'll see that when we talk about the 4-4 here in a couple of weeks, but that's the biggest problem with the 6-2. In the NFL and college, you never see them play a 6-2 unless they get on the goal line. That's when they want to play pure man coverage. Kendall?
This is from Aaron. We have a team of smaller kids, but athletic and fast. Most teams we play run toss or sweep or QB sweep. I'm wondering if we'd lose pursuit players with so many on the line.
You might want to be, depending on your age of your players, you might want to be in a 4-4. Because once again, you're right? Because your alignment in a 4-4 is going to be something like this. Probably a 3 technique, an in, a shade or 2, all right? And then you can stack your backers or whatever. You do have better ability to pursue. Now, but once again, if you're talking about 6 and 7-year-olds and maybe 8-year-olds, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Now, once you get to 9-year-olds and they, every 9, 10-year-old team's got a really special kid playing here and maybe one playing here. And if this one can run, it's an issue because what they'll try to do is spread you out and just let that kid run right there. All right, so you might be in better shape, to be in a 4-4 or a 5-3. We're going to cover a 5-3 here in a couple of weeks too. And if I'm small, I'm going to move my people up front, because at the same time, you don't want to keep the smaller guys in there stationary against bigger offensive linemen. Kendall?
So we have a question from Wayne. Wayne, if you can check your chat, I don't know for sure what you're asking there. It says comers, I don't know if it's corners, need to be good tacklers or turn the play back inside?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, that's what we've been talking about. I mean, once again, they do, and in youth football, you just have to be careful. We all want to put our smallest kid out here to cover, all right? But at the end of the day, this might be less protected out here. When that ball starts breaking out here, and all of a sudden they block down and they pull a guard out here, and you got some, he may be less protected than somebody inside. So, you might want to take your smaller player and put him out here at free safety. But your corners, if you're getting the sweep run on you, your corners are going to have to make a play. They're going to have to at least turn it back inside. So you've got 1 or 2 things you can do, Wayne. You can address this personnel-wise, or you can do your darndest to make sure it never gets out here, meaning that you're going to slant to it, try to make sure your end keeps it inside or whatever. But that's hard to do because the next thing you do, if you've got an end up field here, you're creating a seam inside. So I would say that really what you want to do is make sure, teach these guys, and this comes up every year. It came up last year, that you want to make sure if his guy blocks or if his guy blocks him, he wants to take it on up here and hold his ground. Back here is no good. It's got to happen up here or in the backfield somewhere. Kendall?
Rob asked, can the 6-2 be run with zone responsibilities instead of man? Example, cover 3.
Yeah, it could. It could. Let me get to that. That's an excellent question. And when I was saying that, I like man coverage when I'm talking really younger players here. Let me see if I can get out of this and get to another. So it's a good question. I mean, essentially, if you were going to do that, I mean, you would be playing with really not very much underneath coverage. Rob, right, Kendall?
Yep.
So what you're saying, Rob, is you got a deep third here with this corner, right? And you got a deep third here with this corner. Obviously, your free safety is a deep. So you've got a good situation. You're against passes, and I didn't say much about the pass, and I should bring one of them up here. Against passes, you're playing man coverage, but at the same time, you're rushing 6 every time. You're bringing what would be called an all-out blitz in the NFL or college or high school football. There's no way that quarterback should have very much time to get the ball off because you've got 6 people responsible for rushing the passer. So you could do it, but just understand that you're voiding a lot of zones underneath because your backers would have, this backer would have the flat, the curl, and his half of the hook. This backer would have the flat, the curl, his half of the hook. Now, you could teach your corners to play flat to deep, but you're getting, depending on how old your players are, you better be careful. Man coverage is usually a lot simpler for them. But, yes, you could do that with a 6'2", but I'd be careful. Kendall?
Those are all the questions we have right now. All
right. Last chance. Like I said, I just don't want to – I don't want there to be any questions unanswered. And I appreciate the questions tonight. They've all been really good. And I hope that it's helping you. Once again, I'm not professing to be a guru myself, but you've all seen, obviously, I've used FirstDown Playbook a lot tonight. And I own the company, so I'm going to brag on it. But I'll tell you right now that, there's all kinds of different busy out there. I coached in the NFL for 9 years, and that's a exceptional kind of busy during the season. But I'm not sure, the thing about an NFL coach and you is that you both got 24 hours in a day, and I spend all my time at the office coaching. Most of you have got jobs, you've got families, you've got things going on, and so your time that you have to devote to football, it's just not as much. And FirstDown Playbook is something that can help you in a lot of ways, save you time. All these plays, for the most part, anything you're going to see, coaches is already drawn up in here. You just go in, make an edit, save, and I'll go back here and show you real quickly. But, you create your own playbook areas. You get it set up for your own team. And so the point is I'm trying to make here on the way out is that, there's a lot of help here for you as a youth football coach too. And you can make your own plays and all that. So I hope you will keep that in mind. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the toss sweep. We're going to flip-flop back and forth, offense, defense, over the next 8 weeks after this. And, spread the word. I don't think we hit 100 tonight, so there's probably room to let people know that we'd love to have them.